When people talk about the love between grandparents and grandchildren, it sounds simple, like a warm hug or a sweet story before bed. But for me, it was much more than that. My grandson, Ethan, wasn't just a part of my life, he was my life. Every morning, I woke up with one thought in my heart: will I see him today? From the moment he was born, I felt like I had been given a second chance at motherhood, a chance to do everything better this time. When my daughter, Melissa, placed him in my arms at the hospital, I remember whispering to him, "You'll always have me, no matter what." His little fingers curled around mine, and in that instant, I believed that nothing in this world could ever break the bond we shared. Melissa was only 22 when she had Ethan, and she was still figuring out her own life. I tried to be gentle, to guide her when she needed advice, but also to step back when she wanted independence. But Ethan, he always found his way into my arms. Whether it was a scraped knee, a bedtime story, or just the comfort of sitting on the porch with me while the sun set, he made it clear where he felt safest. "Grandma," he would say in his tiny, high-pitched voice, "you're my favorite person in the whole world." I can still hear the way his words bubbled out with so much certainty, like he wasn't just saying it to be sweet. He meant it. And every time he said it, it melted something inside of me that had been frozen for years. You see, Melissa and I never had the easiest relationship. She grew up with a stubborn streak, something she definitely inherited from me. Her father left when she was 10, and she carried a lot of anger about that, anger that sometimes found its way toward me. I tried my best to raise her alone, to keep a roof over our heads, to make sure she had everything she needed, but she often reminded me of the things I couldn't give her. And maybe that's why Ethan's love meant so much to me. Because while Melissa often saw my flaws, Ethan only saw my heart. To him, I wasn't the woman who had made mistakes. I was the grandma who made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, who always remembered his favorite toy, who never tired of listening to his endless questions about the stars, the ocean, or why bees buzzed. Our weekends were sacred. Melissa worked long shifts at the hospital as a nurse, and Ethan would spend most Saturdays with me. We had our routines: walking to the park, feeding the ducks, making popcorn, and watching old Disney movies. He loved The Lion King, but he hated the part where Mufasa died, so I would always distract him at that moment by asking if he wanted extra butter on his popcorn. When he turned 7, Ethan started writing me little notes. Some were silly. "Grandma, I love cookies more than broccoli." Others were sweet beyond his years. "Grandma, thank you for always being my safe place." I kept every single one of those notes in a showbox under my bed, treasures I could pull out on the days when life felt too heavy. But here's the thing about family love: it's fragile. It can be built up over years of trust and joy, but it can also be shattered in a single moment, especially when lies come into play. I didn't know it then, but Melissa had started resenting the closeness I shared with Ethan. Maybe she felt overshadowed. Maybe she thought I was stealing her role as his mother. Or maybe she just couldn't stand that Ethan preferred me sometimes. Whatever the reason, I started noticing little shifts. At first, it was small things. Melissa would roll her eyes when Ethan ran into my arms before hugging her. She would sigh when he asked to sleep at my house. She started making comments like, "Don't spoil him, Mom," or "He needs to learn not to depend on you so much." I brushed it off, thinking it was just normal tension between a mother and grandmother. I didn't want to believe there was any real jealousy involved. But slowly, Melissa's comments grew sharper, colder, and more pointed. One night, as Ethan and I sat together coloring at the kitchen table, Melissa walked in and said, "Ethan, you know your grandma doesn't really understand you the way I do, right? She's just here to babysit sometimes. I'm the one who really takes care of you." Ethan looked confused, his crayon stopping midline. "But Grandma's my favorite person," he said innocently, as though he couldn't imagine it being any other way. Melissa's face darkened. "Well, maybe you should think about how that makes me feel, Ethan." I wanted to speak up, to defend him, to defend myself, but the look in her eyes stopped me. I had seen that look before, the same one she gave me as a teenager when she blamed me for her father leaving, for the things she felt I couldn't provide. It was the look of someone ready to hurt with words sharper than knives. So I stayed quiet. But inside, a storm was already building. Because love that pure, that honest, the kind a child gives freely, should never be poisoned. And yet, I didn't realize how far Melissa was willing to go. What I didn't know was that those moments were only the beginning. The beginning of the unraveling of everything I held dear. The beginning of losing my grandson. The beginning of the lies that would destroy our family. And the beginning of the silence I never thought I would have to live with. Melissa had always been good with words. Even as a little girl, she could twist an argument in her favor, turn tears on and off like a faucet, and find a way to make herself the victim even when she wasn't. I used to tell myself it was just part of her strong personality, a defense mechanism she developed after her father walked out on us. But now, as an adult, that skill of hers had taken a darker shape. It started subtly. Ethan had always come to my house with joy, running in, dropping his backpack by the door, shouting, "Grandma, I'm here." But one Saturday, when Melissa dropped him off, he walked in with his head down. His usual energy seemed gone, like someone had dimmed his light. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, bending down to hug him. "What's wrong?" He shuffled his feet and whispered, "Nothing." Melissa, standing at the door with her arms crossed, smirked faintly. "He's just tired. Don't spoil him too much today, okay?" She didn't kiss him goodbye. She just left. That day, Ethan was quiet. He sat at the kitchen table, drawing, but he didn't chatter like usual. I tried to lighten the mood. I made his favorite grilled cheese sandwiches, cut into heart shapes the way he liked. He smiled a little when I served them, but his eyes looked heavy, like something was weighing on him. Finally, after a long silence, he said softly, "Grandma, is it true you don't like Mom?" I froze. "What? Of course I like your mom, honey. I love her. She's my daughter. Why would you think I don't?" He looked at me, frowning like he was trying to solve a puzzle too big for him. "She said you only want me around because you don't have anyone else. That you're lonely and you don't really care about her." My heart sank. I wanted to deny it immediately, but I could already feel Melissa's fingerprints all over those words. They weren't his thoughts. They were hers. "Sweetheart," I said gently, taking his little hand in mine, "I love you because you're you. And I love your mom too, even when we don't agree. Don't ever think otherwise, okay?" Ethan nodded, but I could tell he was still uncertain. The seed had been planted. And seeds like that, when watered with more lies, grow into thorns that pierce deep. Over the next few months, Melissa's comments turned sharper. She began to tell Ethan things that made me sound selfish, unreliable, even dangerous in subtle ways. If I let him stay up past his bedtime at my house, she'd scold him later. "See? Your grandma doesn't care if you're tired for school. She just wants you to like her more than me." If I bought him toys or books, she'd snap, "Your grandma is trying to buy your love. Don't let her fool you." It broke me every time Ethan repeated her words to me, his little brow furrowed in confusion. He didn't want to believe them, but he trusted his mother. And children, no matter how much they love their grandparents, are loyal to their parents first. One day, Melissa showed up unannounced at my house while Ethan and I were building a fort in the living room. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, lips pursed, and said, "Ethan, get your stuff. We're leaving." "But Mom," Ethan said. "Grandma and I were." "Now." Her tone left no room for argument. Ethan's face fell. He looked at me with wide, sad eyes, then slowly got up and packed his things. After he left the room, I finally spoke. "Melissa, what are you doing? Why are you trying to ruin the time he and I spent together?" Melissa's eyes blazed with anger. "You think I don't see it? You're trying to replace me. You're trying to be his mom. He loves you more than me, and you're encouraging it." I shook my head, my voice trembling. "No, Melissa. I've never tried to take your place. He's your son. He knows that. He just loves me too, and there's nothing wrong with that." She stepped closer, lowering her voice into something sharp and cold. "No, Mom. You don't get it. He's mine, and I won't let you take him away from me." Her words chilled me. There was something possessive, almost territorial, in the way she said it. Like Ethan was not a child with his own heart, but a prize she couldn't risk losing. From that day forward, things only got worse. Melissa began limiting Ethan's visits. At first, she said it was because of her schedule. Then she claimed he had more homework, more after-school activities. Slowly, my weekends with him shrank from every Saturday to every other week, then once a month. I tried calling. Sometimes she wouldn't answer. Other times, she'd pick up and say, "He's busy right now," before hanging up. When I did get through, Ethan's voice sounded distant. He spoke in short sentences, always with his mom listening in the background. Once, when I asked if he wanted to come over for his favorite pancakes, he said softly, "I can't, Grandma. Mom says you don't make good food for me." It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I wanted to fight back. I wanted to call Melissa out for her lies, to scream at her for turning my grandson against me. But I knew that if I pushed too hard, she could cut me off completely. The fear of losing him entirely kept me quiet. But staying quiet didn't save me. The real breaking point came on Ethan's 9th birthday. For years, I had been the one to bake his birthday cakes, dinosaurs, superheroes, one year even a rocket ship. But that year, Melissa didn't invite me to his party. I only found out about it through a neighbor who saw the balloons and decorations at Melissa's house. I showed up anyway, carrying a gift I had saved up for months to buy, a telescope. Ethan loved the stars, and I thought maybe, just maybe, it would remind him of our nights sitting on the porch, staring at the sky together. But when I knocked on the door, Melissa opened it with a look of pure disdain. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "I came for Ethan. It's his birthday," I said, my voice breaking. Her smile was sharp, cruel. "You weren't invited." Behind her, I could see Ethan surrounded by kids, laughing, blowing out candles. For a moment, his eyes met mine. His smile faltered, confusion flashing across his face. "Grandma?" he called out. Melissa slammed the door before I could answer. I stood there on the porch, clutching the telescope to my chest, tears streaming down my face. That was the day I realized Melissa wasn't just pulling him away from me. She was erasing me, piece by piece, memory by memory. Until one day, I feared Ethan would no longer remember the bond we once had at all. But what I didn't know that night, standing alone with a gift that would never reach him, was that the truth had a way of surviving. Even if it took years. Even if it broke me first. Because one day, Ethan would learn everything his mother had hidden from him. And when he did, nothing would ever be the same again. The weeks after Ethan's 9th birthday felt like a slow, suffocating spiral. The telescope I had bought for him sat in the corner of my living room, still in its box. I couldn't bring myself to return it, but I also couldn't bear to look at it. It was a symbol of everything I had lost, of the memories we should have shared but never would. I tried calling Melissa again, desperate to at least hear Ethan's voice. Most times, she didn't answer. When she did, she had an excuse ready. "He's doing homework. He's at a friend's house. He's too tired." And then finally, the one that shattered me. "He doesn't want to talk to you right now." I sat on my bed with the phone still pressed to my ear long after the call ended. Her words echoed inside me like a cruel chant. "He doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't want to talk to you." But deep down, I didn't believe it. Not entirely. Ethan wasn't a cruel child. He was gentle, loving, curious. I knew Melissa was feeding him words the way she had always fed him lies. Still, her strategy was working. The silence between us grew wider every day. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to stop waiting. I drove to Melissa's house, determined to see my grandson even if it meant facing her wrath. When I pulled into the driveway, I could see Ethan through the living room window, sitting on the couch with a book. My heart leapt. He was right there. I walked to the door and knocked. Melissa answered, her arms crossed tightly. "What do you want, Mom?" she asked coldly. "I just want to see him," I pleaded. "Please, Melissa. He's my grandson. I miss him." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't get to show up whenever you want. You've caused enough confusion already." "Confusion?" I repeated, incredulous. "Loving him isn't confusion. Wanting to spend time with him isn't wrong." She smirked. "He's better off without you. You don't know how to respect boundaries. You don't know how to let me be his mother." I felt my voice shake as I whispered, "Melissa, I've never tried to take your place. I've only ever wanted to be part of his life." That's all. For a moment, her expression flickered, like maybe she felt the weight of my words. But then Ethan appeared at the doorway behind her. Grandma? His voice was small, hesitant. I smiled, tears already filling my eyes. Hi, sweetheart. Melissa turned sharply toward him. Go back inside, Ethan. But now. Ethan flinched, then dropped his head and shuffled back into the living room. I caught a glimpse of his small shoulders slumping, the sadness written all over him. Melissa turned back to me and said quietly, almost like a threat, if you ever show up here again without an invitation, you'll regret it. Then she slammed the door in my face. I stood there frozen, my hands trembling. For the first time in my life, I felt truly powerless. I could survive the loneliness of losing friends, the ache of my own failed marriage, even the grief of being abandoned by Ethan's grandfather years ago. But this was different. This was losing the one person who had given my life new meaning. After that day, I sank into a darkness I had never known. I stopped baking. I stopped gardening. I stopped opening the showbox of notes Ethan had once written me. The house that had always been full of laughter when he visited now felt like a museum of memories, each corner haunted by the sound of his giggles and the echo of his little footsteps. I avoided the park because I couldn't stand seeing other grandparents with their grandkids. I couldn't watch Saturday morning cartoons anymore because they reminded me of the times Ethan and I would cuddle under a blanket with bowls of popcorn. Even my porch became unbearable. The stars no longer beautiful, only painful reminders of the telescope collecting dust inside. At night, I would lie awake, replaying every moment with Melissa in my head. I asked myself over and over, what did I do wrong? Was I too loving? Too present? Did I make Ethan love me so much that Melissa felt replaced? Was I truly to blame for the wedge that had grown between us? But no matter how much I questioned myself, the truth lingered in the pit of my stomach. I hadn't pulled Ethan away from his mother. Melissa had pushed him away from me. And now she was winning. Months passed. The silence stretched so long that I began to fear Ethan would forget me entirely. Then, one day, out of the blue, I received a letter. It was in a small envelope with Ethan's handwriting on the front, to Grandma. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a short note, written in his uneven 9-year-old scrawl. Grandma, I miss you. I don't know why Mom says you don't love me. I know you do. I wish we could see the stars again. Love, Ethan. Tears poured down my face as I clutched the letter to my chest. It was proof. Proof that Melissa hadn't erased me completely. Proof that somewhere deep inside, Ethan still remembered the bond we had, still trusted me enough to write the truth. But then came the cruelest twist. 2 days later, Melissa showed up at my house, furious. She stormed into the living room holding Ethan's backpack in one hand and the telescope in the other. You will not go behind my back again, she snapped. I was stunned. Melissa, he wrote me. I didn't make him do anything. She glared at me. You've poisoned him against me. And now you're trying to sneak around and keep secrets with him? That stops now. She shoved the telescope at me, the box nearly toppling from my arms. He doesn't need your gifts. He doesn't need you filling his head with lies. They're not lies, I cried. All I've ever given him is love. Melissa's face hardened. Love? No, you're selfish. You can't stand that he's not yours. Well, guess what? You don't get to see him anymore. Not now. Not ever. And with that, she turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. I collapsed to the floor, the telescope sliding across the carpet. My heart pounded, my chest aching as though something inside me had been torn apart. This time, I knew she meant it. This time, I truly had lost him. The days that followed were the loneliest of my life. I carried Ethan's letter with me everywhere, folded tightly in my pocket, reading it over and over just to remind myself that our bond had been real, that it hadn't all been in my head. But Melissa's words haunted me too. Not now. Not ever. I didn't know how to fight her without risking losing Ethan forever. And so I stayed quiet, even though silence felt like surrender. I didn't realize then that Ethan was growing older, sharper, more observant. That even though Melissa had silenced me, she couldn't silence the truth forever. Because children grow up. And when they do, they start asking questions their parents can't always answer. And one day, Ethan would come looking for me again. When he did, everything Melissa had built, every wall of lies, every cruel barrier, would start to crumble. But until that day came, I had no choice but to live in the silence, carrying my grandson in my heart and hoping he carried me in his. Time has a way of stealing years when your heart is broken. One day, Ethan was 9 years old and writing me secret letters, and the next thing I knew, he was a teenager. I didn't see him grow inch by inch, didn't hear his voice deepen gradually, didn't witness those small moments that make up a childhood. Instead, I saw glimpses, a photo posted by Melissa online, a mention from a neighbor, a passing sight of him walking home from school. I wasn't supposed to be part of his life anymore. Melissa had made that painfully clear. But that didn't mean I stopped thinking about him every single day. By the time Ethan was 15, the boy I remembered had become taller, broader, with the beginnings of a young man's face. The wide-eyed child who once clung to my hand was now someone I barely recognized. And yet, in the set of his jaw, in the tilt of his smile, I still saw traces of the little boy who used to call me his favorite person in the world. But teenagers are different from children. They don't just accept the world as it's handed to them, they start questioning it. And Ethan was no exception. It started with a phone call. I almost didn't answer because the number was unfamiliar. But something told me to pick up. "Hello?" I said, cautious. There was a pause, then a voice, deep, uncertain, but achingly familiar. "Grandma?" My heart stopped. "Ethan?" I whispered, my hands trembling so badly I had to grip the edge of the table to steady myself. "Yeah, it's me," he said, his voice breaking just a little. Tears rushed to my eyes instantly. "Oh, sweetheart, it's been so long." Another pause. Then, "I know. I wasn't supposed to call you. But I had to." I swallowed hard, afraid to even breathe too loudly, as though the sound of my joy might scare him away. "I'm so glad you did." "Grandma," he said quietly, "why did you stop seeing me?" The question hit me like a knife. For years, I had rehearsed what I might say if he ever asked, but now that the moment was here, the words tangled in my throat. "I didn't stop, Ethan," I whispered. "I was never the one who stopped." Silence stretched between us. Then he said, almost bitterly, "Mom told me you didn't want me around anymore. That you got tired of taking care of me. That you thought I was too much trouble." My knees went weak. I sat down quickly before I collapsed. "No," I said fiercely, my voice shaking. "That's not true. None of that is true. Ethan, you were never trouble. You were the greatest joy of my life. I loved every single moment we had together. I would have given anything, anything, to keep being with you." On the other end of the line, I heard a soft gasp. Then silence again. "Grandma," he finally whispered. I knew it. I knew she was lying. That phone call broke something open inside him. He started asking more questions, digging into the past his mother had tried so hard to rewrite. He told me later that he had always felt a hole in his life where I used to be. He remembered the pancakes, the fort building, the nights under the stars. He remembered feeling safe with me in a way he couldn't explain. And then, suddenly, it had all been ripped away, replaced with cold words from his mother about how I didn't care, how I had moved on. But deep inside, he never believed it fully. "Grandma," he told me during one of our late night calls, "every time she said you didn't love me, I felt like she was lying. But I didn't know how to prove it. And when I was little, I was scared to question her. She'd get so angry." I closed my eyes, picturing the little boy who once looked so confused when Melissa told him I didn't care. My chest ached with both grief and relief. "I'm so sorry, Ethan," I whispered. "I should have fought harder. I should have found a way to be there for you no matter what." He shook his head, his voice firm now. "No, Grandma. This isn't your fault. She's the one who lied. She's the one who kept me from you." For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel hope. But Melissa didn't give up easily. When she discovered Ethan had been calling me, she exploded. He told me about the screaming match that erupted one night after she caught him with his phone. "You don't know what she's really like," Melissa had shouted. "She'll twist you against me if you let her." Ethan had stood his ground. "No, Mom. You're the one who twisted me against her. You lied to me for years. She never stopped loving me, and you made me think she did." Melissa had slapped him across the face. He told me this later, quietly, his voice filled with both pain and anger. It wasn't the first time she had raised her hand at him, but he said it was the first time he truly saw her for what she was, not just his mother, but a woman willing to destroy anyone, even her own son's happiness, just to keep control. That night, Ethan packed a bag. He left Melissa's house and came to mine. When I opened the door and saw him standing there, taller now, his face shadowed with anger but his eyes filled with longing, I broke down in sobs. "Grandma," he whispered, dropping his bag at his feet. "I can't stay there anymore. Please, can I stay here?" I pulled him into my arms, holding him tighter than I ever had before. "Of course you can. Of course, sweetheart. You'll always have a home with me." For the first time in years, my house was alive again. Ethan sat at my kitchen table, eating pancakes just like he used to. He sat on the porch with me at night, pointing out constellations. He even opened the telescope box, dusting it off with a bittersweet smile. "I always wondered why Mom kept this hidden," he said softly. "Now I know. She didn't want me to remember how much you loved me." We set it up together that night, and when he peered through it at the stars, I saw a tear slip down his cheek. "I missed this," he whispered. I reached over and squeezed his hand. "Me too." But we both knew it wasn't over. Melissa wasn't going to let him go without a fight. And soon enough, the storm we had both been dreading arrived. Melissa showed up on my doorstep 3 days later, furious, her voice echoing down the street as she screamed my name. "You think you can steal my son from me?" she shouted. "You think you can turn him against me after everything I've done for him?" Ethan came to the door, his face pale but determined. "I'm not a little kid anymore, Mom," he said firmly. "I know what you did. I know the lies you told. You tried to erase Grandma from my life, but you couldn't. And you won't ever again." Melissa's face twisted with rage. "You're ungrateful. Both of you. You'll regret this." But this time, for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Because Ethan was standing right beside me. And I knew the truth was finally stronger than her lies. Melissa's threats didn't end that night. She left my porch furious, but the storm didn't fade. Instead, it lingered in the air like thick smoke, and both Ethan and I knew it was only a matter of time before she struck again. And she did. The very next day, she showed up at Ethan's school, demanding he come home with her. When he refused, saying he was staying with me, Melissa caused a scene in front of teachers and students alike. She shouted that I was manipulating him, that I was brainwashing him into turning against her. But Ethan didn't back down. "She didn't brainwash me," he yelled, his voice cracking but strong. "You did. You lied to me for years about her, Mom. You told me she didn't want me. But she did. She always did." The entire school courtyard went silent. Teachers stepped in, trying to calm the situation, but Melissa was beyond reason. "You'll regret this, Ethan," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You're my son, and no one takes you from me." She stormed off, leaving Ethan shaken but strangely empowered. He told me later that in that moment, something inside him had shifted. For the first time in his life, he wasn't scared of her anymore. But Melissa wasn't done. A week later, I received a call from Child Protective Services. Someone had reported me, claiming I was unfit to care for Ethan, that I was manipulating him and trying to replace his mother. I didn't need to guess who made the report. The fear that gripped me was unbearable. I knew how easy it was for lies to ruin someone's life, especially when told with enough confidence. The thought of losing Ethan again, this time by force, nearly destroyed me. But then Ethan did something I will never forget. When the social worker arrived to interview us, Ethan sat tall and steady beside me. He spoke clearly, without hesitation. "My mom lied to me about my grandma for years," he said. "She told me Grandma didn't love me, that she didn't want me. None of that was true. My grandma never stopped loving me. She never stopped waiting for me. If you take me away from her, you'll be taking me away from the only person who's ever made me feel safe. The social worker looked at him carefully, then at me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I had Ethan standing beside me, speaking truth into the world that Melissa had poisoned with lies. But the real turning point came not long after. Ethan, determined to understand why his mother had spent so many years tearing us apart, started digging through her things while she was at work one day. What he found shocked even me. He came to my house with a showbox in his hands. Inside were letters, dozens of them, addressed to Ethan. My letters. Over the years, after Melissa cut me off, I had written to Ethan anyway. Every holiday, every birthday, every time I missed him so much I thought my chest would cave in, I wrote. I poured my heart onto paper, telling him stories, reminding him how much I loved him, describing memories I never wanted him to forget. I mailed them to Melissa's house, praying she would give them to him. She never did. Ethan sat on my couch that night, reading letter after letter with tears streaming down his face. "Grandma," he whispered, holding one of the birthday letters in his hands. "All this time, you never gave up on me." I wiped his tears with my thumb. "Never, sweetheart, not for 1 second." His voice shook as he said, "She told me you forgot me. That you moved on, but you were writing to me the whole time." "Yes," I said, my own tears falling. "Because I needed you to know, even if you didn't see the letters until you were grown, that my love for you never stopped. Not once." Ethan clenched the stack of letters tightly. "I'm going to show these to her. She can't hide the truth anymore." When he confronted Melissa with the letters, she didn't have the same fire she once did. For the first time, she looked cornered, exposed. "Why, Mom?" Ethan demanded, his voice trembling with anger. "Why would you do this to me? Why would you make me think she didn't care? Do you have any idea how much that hurt me? How much I hated myself because I thought I wasn't good enough for her love?" Melissa's eyes darted between us, her facade cracking. She tried to form excuses, said she was protecting him, said she didn't want me spoiling him, said she thought I was trying to replace her. But Ethan didn't let her off the hook. "No," he said, his voice firm. "You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself. You were jealous that I loved her. You couldn't stand that someone else made me feel safe. And instead of dealing with your own feelings, you punished me. You punished both of us." Melissa broke then. For the first time in years, I saw tears spill from her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I was scared. I always felt like she loved you more than she loved me. Like I wasn't enough as a daughter, and I couldn't let you see her the way I saw her. I couldn't let her be the mom to you that she wasn't to me." Her words were like knives, but they were also a confession. A confession that everything she had done wasn't about Ethan at all. It was about her own resentment, her own wounds from the past she had never healed. "I'm sorry," she said finally, collapsing into sobs. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't want to lose you." Ethan looked at her, his face torn between pain and pity. "You already lost me, Mom. The day you made me believe Grandma didn't love me, you lost me." In the days that followed, Melissa tried to repair the damage. She apologized to Ethan, to me. She admitted to others what she had done, how she had hidden my letters, twisted my words, poisoned Ethan against me. It wasn't an instant fix. Years of lies don't disappear overnight. But something changed. Ethan didn't forgive her immediately, but he did something braver. He set boundaries. He told her he would only rebuild their relationship if she was honest with him, if she respected the bond he and I shared, and if she stopped using her fear as an excuse to hurt people. As for me, I got my grandson back. It wasn't easy at first. There were scars on both of us. He had missed years of my love, years of memories we should have shared. And I had missed watching him grow, missed milestones I could never get back. But we built something new. We spent long nights talking, filling in the blanks of all the years we had lost. We laughed about old memories, cried over the time stolen from us, and promised each other that no one would ever come between us again. One night, not long after the confrontation with Melissa, Ethan and I sat on the porch together. The telescope was pointed at the stars, the air crisp and quiet. He leaned against me, taller now, but still my little boy in some way. "Grandma," he said softly, "you're still my favorite person in the whole world." Tears filled my eyes, "And you'll always be mine." The years of silence, the lies, the pain, they would never disappear completely. But the truth had survived. Our love had survived. And sometimes, that's enough.